Archangel Michael says, the truth has a way of rising when you least expect it. Last night, your friend's words pierced the silence, exposing secrets that were never meant to see the light. The family sat there, frozen, unable to breathe, unable to respond, because everything they thought was hidden had been placed in front of them like a mirror. The atmosphere was heavy, the air trembling with revelation, and hearts began to shatter in slow motion. Each sentence spoken carried the weight of thunder, echoing across the room like an undeniable storm. No one dared to interrupt, because the truth was finally standing tall, and no one could silence it anymore. Tears began to surface, but even the tears refused to fall at first, holding themselves in like a dam about to break. Every soul present could feel the trembling hand of fate touching them, shaking their illusions apart, leaving nothing but raw reality behind. The silence was not peace. It was shock, it was disbelief, it was the sound of lives changing forever. And as the words echoed, each heart carried its own unspoken realization: what was once hidden in whispers had finally broken into light. The truth was unstoppable now, and the path ahead could never return to what it once was. The family sat speechless, and yet the silence spoke louder than any voice could. Type Amen to get blessing 333. The room was filled with an invisible pressure, the kind that makes every breath feel heavy. One by one, their eyes locked, searching for excuses, explanations, or denials, but none came. All that remained was the undeniable truth they could no longer run from. Each member felt exposed, like their very souls had been placed under a burning light. The friend who revealed everything carried both courage and fear, knowing that once the words left their lips, there was no going back. A new chapter had begun, one no one was ready for. The silence was not empty. It was crowded with the sound of broken trust, with the ghost of every hidden action finally revealed. The weight of last night still lingers today, pressing down on everyone who was there. They know nothing will ever be the same. It was not just confession, it was judgment. And judgment has a way of rewriting destinies in ways no one can control. The speechless stares were not just shock, they were the realization that destiny itself had arrived, and it was merciless. Type Amen to get blessing 444. The family's hearts began to race, because deep down, they had known something was coming. They had felt the whispers in the air, the unease in their spirit, but they ignored it. Last night, their refusal to listen caught up with them. Every word spoken had the sharpness of a blade, slicing open old wounds that never truly healed. Their speechlessness was not innocence, it was guilt, it was fear, it was the collapse of carefully built walls. And when walls fall, nothing can protect what lies beneath. The friend's voice may have trembled, but the truth was unshakable. Truth carries its own power, and once released, it can never be locked away again. No amount of silence, denial, or anger could undo what was spoken. Even heaven paused, watching as these secrets spilled into the open. And Archangel Michael says, what is spoken in truth cannot be erased, it is written into the fabric of destiny. The silence of the family was the confirmation, everything had changed. Type Amen to get blessing 555. The silence that filled the room last night still hangs in the air today, wrapping itself around the hearts of everyone who was there. They sat speechless, not because they didn't hear the words, but because they knew those words were the very truth they tried so hard to bury. Their breaths grew shallow, their faces pale, and in that stillness, time itself seemed to stop. Every detail your friend revealed was like a stone dropped into water, sending endless ripples that will echo for days to come. Nobody moved, nobody dared to speak, because they knew anything they said would only prove the truth further. Their silence was their confession, a loud admission without a single word. It was a moment that felt almost unreal, as though the ground beneath them had been pulled away. What had been whispered in private, hidden in shadows, was now thrown into light. Their fear could no longer be disguised, their shock could no longer be denied. And yet, through that silence, the truth screamed louder than ever before. Every heart knew there was no turning back, and every eye carried the reflection of what was lost forever. Their speechlessness was not peace, it was the sound of lives being rewritten in an instant. Type Amen to get blessing 666. The family exchanged uneasy glances, their eyes telling the stories their mouths could not form. Secrets that had once given them power were now their chains, binding them to guilt and exposure. Each of them was weighed down by the heavy reality that last night had brought. For some, it was shame. For others, it was betrayal. For all, it was the undeniable reminder that no truth can stay hidden forever. When it comes out, it shakes foundations and leaves nothing untouched. The silence was deafening, but behind it, storms were brewing in their hearts. Every beat carried regret, every thought carried fear of what would come next. The truth had set itself on the table, and they could not look away. It was the moment where lies finally collapsed under their own weight. The friend who revealed everything carried no malice, only the need to speak what could no longer be silenced. Their courage ripped open a night that will never be forgotten. Type Amen to get blessing 777. If you wish to express your support further, you have the option to give super thanks, with contributions of up to $20. Archangel Michael says, destiny often arrives when least expected, and it arrives with force. Last night was not an accident, it was the hand of heaven moving to reveal what had been hidden too long. The family sat speechless not because they lacked words, but because heaven had already spoken for them. The weight of unspoken truths pressed down harder than chains, breaking spirits that once thought they could hold control. Their silence was heavy, it was haunting, it was the sign that their world had shifted into something they could not escape. Every hidden action, every secret conversation, every concealed choice, they all collided in that one moment. The power of truth burned through the room, and no one could stand against it. The walls of silence they built were gone in an instant. The friend's words were the lightning strike, and the silence was the thunder that followed. Together, they carved a mark in history that cannot be erased. The family may have sat in silence, but the echoes of last night will haunt them forever. Type Amen to get blessing 888. The weight of the night pressed against their souls long after the words were spoken. No one could sleep, no one could rest, because the silence of that moment kept replaying in their minds. Every pause, every glance, every unspoken fear became louder with each passing second. The family's hearts were restless, each one carrying the burden of the truth now exposed. They had lived with hidden shadows for too long, and last night shattered their illusion of control. Their speechlessness was not simply shock, it was the collapse of everything they thought was safe. One by one, they tried to hold their emotions inside, but the trembling of their hands betrayed them. Their eyes darted around the room, desperate to escape the heaviness that surrounded them. But there was no escape, because truth follows wherever you go. The friend who revealed everything had no regret, because they knew the silence was more destructive than the confession itself. Truth had been carried in the heart for too long, and last night, it demanded to be spoken. The family could only sit speechless, bound by the very chains they forged themselves. Type Amen to get blessing 999. The air was thick, filled with a tension that refused to break. Some of them wanted to scream, some wanted to deny, but their mouths betrayed them, remaining closed. Their silence was not choice, it was fear, it was guilt, it was surrender. The truth was now carved into their reality, and nothing could undo it. They realized that no amount of silence could erase the words that had already been spoken. Last night changed everything, and today is only the beginning of the consequences. It felt as if heaven itself had sat in that room, listening, watching, and waiting. Every lie that had once seemed powerful now felt weak and meaningless. Silence became their only shield, but even silence could not save them anymore. The courage it took for your friend to speak was far greater than the fear that kept everyone else silent. And in that moment, the difference between courage and fear was written clearly for all to see. Heaven had chosen its vessel, and the truth was delivered. Type Amen to get blessing 111. Archangel Michael says, when truth is spoken, it is not only heard, it is felt. The family did not need to answer, because the silence of their hearts was louder than any words. Their breath carried the weight of defeat, and their silence carried the sound of judgment. They replayed every memory, every decision, every word they thought no one knew. And now, all of it lay before them, exposed, undeniable. Their silence became their last defense, but it also revealed their deepest guilt. Last night's confession was not just a moment, it was a prophecy unfolding. Heaven had seen everything, and now it was brought into light for all to witness. The truth that once slept in shadows now stood awake, unshakable. They sat still, unable to deny, because the silence already betrayed them. Each moment that passed was another nail sealing the destiny they had created for themselves. Their speechlessness was their confession, and heaven had already written the final line. Type Amen to get blessing 222. The heaviness of last night still lingers like a shadow over their hearts. They replay the moment again and again, each detail sharper than the last, cutting them from the inside. No matter how much they try to distract themselves, the silence of that night haunts them without mercy. The truth has a way of sticking like fire, refusing to fade. Every word spoken by your friend was a spark, and now their minds burn with the flames of realization. The family cannot hide from themselves anymore, because silence has already revealed their deepest fears. Sleep was stolen from them, because the night that followed was filled with restlessness. Their bodies were still, but their minds screamed in endless echoes. They realized that once truth is spoken, it lives forever, echoing across every thought and every breath. The speechlessness of last night was not just shock, it was surrender to the hand of fate. They could no longer fight what was revealed, because heaven itself had allowed the words to rise. The truth has settled, and it is not leaving. Type Amen to get blessing 333. The family now feels divided within themselves, torn between denial and acceptance. They wish to forget, but forgetting is impossible when the heart has been branded with reality. Silence has become their punishment, a constant reminder of the moment they can never erase. Every room in the house feels different now, every corner carrying the weight of hidden shadows. What was once home now feels like a place of judgment, where every glance feels heavy with meaning. They cannot sit together without feeling the sting of what was spoken. Your friend did not just reveal secrets, they shifted destinies. The silence that followed was the confirmation that everyone knew the truth deep down, even before it was said. Their hearts had carried it, but their lips refused to admit it, until last night forced them to. The pain of silence is worse than the pain of words. Each second that passed after the confession was filled with 1,000 emotions: fear, anger, regret, and disbelief. Yet still, no one could speak. Type Amen to get blessing 444. Archangel Michael says, truth is not always gentle, it arrives like a storm, tearing apart illusions. The storm that entered last night has not ended, it still reigns inside their spirits today. The family carries the silence like a chain, unable to escape its grip. The more they remain quiet, the louder their hearts scream. Silence does not erase guilt, it amplifies it. Every look exchanged is a silent admission, every sigh is a confession they cannot speak aloud. The house feels colder, even when the air is warm. It is not the walls that changed, it is their souls. Silence has built a distance between them that no words can bridge. The friend who revealed the truth may have walked away, but their voice still lingers in the air. It was not just a confession, it was a mirror held before every soul in the room. No one could look away, because in silence, they saw themselves. Type Amen to get blessing 555. The family now lives under the shadow of that night, and every passing hour feels heavier. They want to move forward, but the silence keeps pulling them back. It is as if the very air refuses to allow them peace. The truth that was spoken has created cracks in their bonds. What once held them together now feels fragile, ready to collapse at any moment. Their silence is not strength, it is the evidence of their weakness. They cannot erase what happened, and they cannot rewrite it. The only choice left is to face it, but fear keeps their lips sealed. And so, the silence continues, stretching longer, becoming louder. Last night will not be forgotten, because silence has already carved it into eternity. The family may try to hide, but the truth has already written its mark. No amount of silence will undo it. Type Amen to get blessing 666. The silence of last night did not end with dawn, it followed them like a shadow into the new day. Every sound felt sharper, every movement heavier, because the truth had unsettled the ground beneath their feet. Even the ticking of the clock seemed louder, reminding them that time does not wait, even when hearts are frozen. Their eyes avoided one another, but their silence spoke volumes. Each glance was loaded with fear, regret, and unspoken blame. What had been tightly hidden was now laid bare, and no one could gather the courage to speak. They carried themselves carefully, as if one wrong word would cause the fragile balance to collapse completely. Every breath they took felt stolen, every thought drenched in unease. The weight of the truth was not just emotional, it was physical, pressing down on their shoulders like a mountain. Your friend's voice, though now absent, remained in the air like an echo. The words spoken could not be taken back, and the silence of the family was the proof that they had landed deep, piercing through every shield they built. Type Amen to get blessing 777. Night may have passed, but the storm is still alive within their hearts. They move through the day in fragments, pretending everything is fine, but the silence betrays them. Each step is heavy, each moment is clouded by the memory of last night's confession. They are prisoners of their own stillness, unable to break free. Silence has bound them more tightly than any rope, keeping them trapped inside their guilt and shock. No matter how hard they try, they cannot escape what was spoken. Archangel Michael says, "Truth cannot be undone, it can only be faced." Their silence is delaying the inevitable, but destiny will not wait forever. Heaven's hand has already moved, and its weight lies over them like an unshakable shadow. The family feels the pull of consequences they cannot yet see. They know the silence will not protect them much longer. The truth will demand action, and they are not ready. Type Amen to get blessing 888. Every corner of the house whispers what was spoken. The walls feel different, the rooms colder, because the energy has shifted. A sacred line was crossed, and nothing will restore what once was. The silence is their only answer, but it is also their loudest cry. They cannot form words, because every word will be a confirmation of their guilt. And so they choose silence, believing it to be safer, even as it suffocates them. The friend who spoke last night does not realize the earthquake they created. Their courage has torn the veil, and now the family has no place to hide. They sit in silence, knowing everything has changed forever. The truth has no enemy stronger than denial, yet denial has already failed. Silence has taken its place, and silence is an even greater punishment. It is the language of broken souls. Type Amen to get blessing 999. The memory of last night keeps circling like a storm, returning again and again. Each moment of silence reminds them that their world has cracked. They cannot look at each other without feeling the sting of exposed secrets. The heaviness of their stillness is louder than any shout could ever be. It is the weight of shame, the mark of judgment, and the hand of destiny pressing them down. Nothing can protect them from what has already been revealed. Their attempts to carry on with normal life fail miserably. Meals are tasteless, conversations empty, and the silence between them speaks louder than any voice. The truth has woven itself into every corner of their lives. They now live with the haunting knowledge that everything they tried to keep hidden is no longer theirs to control. Their speechlessness is not a pause, it is the new reality, a reminder that their story has changed forever. Type Amen to get blessing 111. The day dragged on, but their silence remained unbroken, wrapping itself around every heartbeat like chains. No laughter, no casual words, not even small gestures could erase what was revealed last night. The atmosphere inside the house was heavy, and every soul was drowning in it. They tried to distract themselves, but the truth was too loud to be silenced. Every corner of their minds replayed the moment when your friend spoke with trembling honesty. Their silence afterward became the proof that nothing would ever be the same again. The weight of guilt seeped into the walls, clinging to the air they breathed. They sat with their thoughts, but those thoughts betrayed them, painting images of every hidden act now uncovered. Their silence was not strength, it was the crumbling of their foundation. The eyes of the family spoke louder than words, carrying shame, regret, and an ache they could not hide. It was clear to all who witnessed it, the truth had broken them, and they could not rebuild what was lost. Type Amen to get blessing 222. The silence lingered through meals, through moments that once felt ordinary. Even the clinking of a glass or the creak of a chair seemed louder than usual. The air was thick, suffocating, charged with emotions no one dared to release. It was as if they feared that speaking would unleash something greater, something uncontrollable. So they chose silence, even though it was already eating them alive. They were captives of their own refusal to face reality. Archangel Michael says, "The truth is a sword that cuts through illusions." Last night, that sword struck deep, and now every silent moment is the wound that refuses to heal. Their hearts ache, but they still cannot find their voices. Each passing hour only deepens the division between them. They look like a family on the outside, but within, silence has made them strangers. Their souls no longer move as one. Type Amen to get blessing 333. The night returns again, bringing with it the memory of the night before. Sleep escapes them, for silence follows into their dreams, haunting them with the words they did not say. They toss and turn, but peace does not come. Their silence is not rest, it is torment. It is the heavy reminder that nothing can undo the spoken truth. Every attempt to hide only makes their guilt clearer. The one who revealed everything may not be there, but their presence is still felt. Their words linger in the air, etched into the very fabric of their destiny. Silence is the only response, yet it says everything. The family sits in the same house, but they are worlds apart. The bond that once held them has been shattered, and silence is the evidence of their brokenness. Their eyes avoid each other, but their silence keeps speaking. Type Amen to get blessing 444. The pain of silence grows heavier as the days pass. It no longer feels like protection, it feels like punishment. They realize that avoiding words does not erase the truth, it only deepens the wound. Every breath is accompanied by the weight of regret. Every heartbeat is a reminder of what was spoken. The truth lives in silence, louder than any voice. They cannot escape what was revealed, no matter how much they try. Their attempts to return to normal are empty, shallow, lifeless. Silence has taken root, and it refuses to leave. The family now knows that what was hidden has been exposed forever. They sit speechless, because they cannot fight against destiny. Heaven has already written their story in the light of truth. Type Amen to get blessing 555. The silence had now turned into a presence of its own, a shadow that followed them from room to room. Even when no one was near, it felt as if the truth itself was watching, waiting to remind them of what had been spoken. Their attempts to escape through distraction only deepened the echo of that night. Every glance across the table was heavy, every pause in conversation unbearable. The words of your friend were no longer just memories, they had become part of the air, impossible to erase. The family lived inside that truth now, bound to it whether they wanted or not. Archangel Michael says, "Silence after truth is not peace, it is judgment." What they refused to speak became louder than thunder, shaping their future in silence. Their hearts trembled, for they knew the heavens had heard their quiet confession. The more they avoided speech, the more they drowned in it. They had chosen silence, but silence had chosen to expose them. In their stillness, every hidden action spoke louder than they ever could. Type Amen to get blessing 666. The nights were the worst. Alone in their rooms, the silence became unbearable, whispering the same words again and again. Sleep did not come, only shadows and restless thoughts. They could still see the look on your friend's face, the courage, the pain, the weight of honesty that forced its way into the open. That memory was impossible to escape. Silence became the punishment of the guilty. Their days blurred into one another, filled with silence that carried anger, regret, and shame. They wanted to scream, but their voices failed them. They sat in the same house, but each soul was locked in its own prison. The house itself seemed to change, no longer a home but a cage of unspoken words. Every corner, every chair, every wall carried the memory of last night's revelation. There was no safe place to hide. Type Amen to get blessing 777. The truth had pierced deeper than they expected. It did not just expose actions, it revealed hearts. And when hearts are revealed, nothing can remain the same. They thought silence would protect them, but it only left them vulnerable. Their unspoken words betrayed them more than open confessions ever could. Silence had turned into their loudest cry. Their souls now live in the space between regret and fear. Regret for what was done, and fear for what is to come. That silence is the bridge they walk every day. The family, once united in appearance, is now divided in silence. The bond has been cut, and nothing can tie it back. Last night was not just a moment, it was a breaking point. Type Amen to get blessing 888. The friend who spoke the truth has unknowingly become the messenger of destiny. Their courage unleashed what heaven had been waiting for. The silence that followed was the proof that nothing hidden can stay in the dark forever. The family sits still, but inside, storms rage. Their silence is not peace, it is chaos without sound. The truth continues to echo in their souls, louder than ever. The heaviness grows daily, pressing against them like an invisible weight. Each attempt to forget only strengthens the memory. The silence will not let them go. And so, they live within the judgment of their own hearts. The family's silence has already spoken, louder than words, sealing their fate. The truth cannot be undone. Type Amen to get blessing 999.